Hello, good morning and welcome to my vlog. Of course, my name is Gail and I'm the host of Random Life Productions. Today you find me in Marble Arch because I wanted to explore this place of execution. I'm sorry about the traffic, it is a busy traffic junction. So this thing here is the site of the T-born tree, which from the 11th century to about, I think it was the 16th or 17th century, public executions used to take place here in London. It was, you can imagine the scene, they would be taken from Newgate Prison, which is now known as the Old Bailey. They would be transported up here via Oxford Circus and they would be brought into Hyde Park Corner, where they would have their last speech. On the way they were allowed to have a drink. They would literally be sitting on their carts on top of coffins. When they got to the hanging tree here, basically what would happen is sometimes 24 people could be executed at once. On one day there was about 450 people executed. We're going to walk to Speaker's Corner, and it is alleged Speaker's Corner was the last place where executed people had said their last rites. It's known famously today because people are allowed to express their opinions there. So let's go for a walk to Speaker's Corner now, and I'm going to pass another interesting monument that is going to come up. So imagine this place 500 years ago, this park. It's now quite empty. Obviously the only noise we can hear is traffic noise. It would be packed with crowds. A person would come into this park here and they would be given their last rites and given their last speeches. So they come here, give their last speeches, and then they will be carted over to where the Tyborn tree is, which is across the road where that cyclist is going towards, and they'd be hung. Now it's not quite sure where this was, but this looks like quite an interesting place, but obviously the park has changed significantly since. And what I'll do now is I'll give you what it says here. It says Speaker's Corner is found close to the notorious site of the Tyborn Gallows. Public hangings took place between 1196 and 783. Legend has it origins of Speaker's Corner lie in the tradition of allowing the condemned men to make a speech from the scaffold. However, the right to speak at Hyde Park was formally recognised by park authorities 80 years after the last hanging took place. And Karl Marx has been at Speaker's Corner. He was often here. And the origins of this place can be found in 1866, when a meeting of the Reform League demanded that there was free speech in the park. The suffragettes held large and small meetings in here as part of reforming. So you can imagine, on the 21st of June 1908, it says on here, historically there were 250,000 women who came to this park and had their rights to speak, which had an impact on our rights to vote today as females. So this place is really interesting. It's steeped in, like I said, loads of history, from the hanging to apparently the condemned man's speech before the hanging. And also it is known as a place of free expression and free speech, mainly here on a Sunday afternoon, because you're only allowed to do it on a Sunday. Are members of different religious groups like Christians or Muslims. Some other speakers come, but a lot of the debate nowadays is political debate, but it's still quite an interesting place. It's really weird, Hyde Park, because it's kind of a massive park and it's an oasis within London. I have limited time today, so I'm just going to give you a brief tour. My walks next week will be uploaded a little later, but I might have a more interesting walk. Well, I don't think so. I'll have a different sort of walk next week because I will be in New York. So I'm going to be doing some history walks through New York. I've been doing quite a bit of research, especially on Grand Central Station. I didn't really think I'm going to get killed. That Grand Central Station was such an amazing place as it is. So when you get to Speaker's Corner, if you're visiting, don't buy coffee from the coffee shop. There's loads of cheap coffee shops around. Go to Greg's, it's cheaper. But I quite like the little shelter there. Quite like that. Artisan coffee, and it says at the front of it, it'll say on the front of it here. So it says right at the front here, it says Speaker's Corner, and it should say on the other side, if I've done my reading right, freedom of speech. But no, it did say at one point, it said freedom of speech, but it doesn't anymore. So clearly the signage has changed, and I do like these little benches out here as well. And this lane where the buses are all passing now, this is called Park Lane, and this here is sort of where all the very wealthy people live. So as you walk down here, you'll see there's Aston Martins, there's Mercedes, Lamborghinis, and all sorts of posh and expensive houses. I will do a more full tour of the area around here, because there's a lot of historic sites that you can see here. The great thing is about the springtime is at this point in time there are loads of flowers that are coming out, so hopefully by the time I come back from my trip there'll be more flowers out at that time. So there's the site of the Queen's Gate that allegedly Victoria didn't like. I think this is a good angle for a photograph. And here is a monument which is quite nice actually. This is a monument to the animals' contribution during the Second and First World Wars. And it says this monument is dedicated to the animals that served and died along British and Allied forces in wars and campaigns throughout time. They had no choice. So I think this is really good that they have a monument that actually represents animals that fought during the war. And as you can see, as we look down here, this is Park Lane. As you can see, there's an Aston Martin. The houses along here are very expensive because it's considered an exclusive area of London. But I love it. I love it around here. This is the thing about starting to discover the history now, is that there's so much stuff here. So you've gone from a place of execution to a freedom of speech to recognising animals in literally just a little space in Hyde Park Corner and obviously Queen's Gate. So let's continue our walk, and I'll get a better camera so when I come out and again in the springtime, when I come back, I'll be taking photographs of this. So as you can tell, looking at these houses, it's become quite glamorous. Kind of reminds me when I went to Boston a few years ago. The street here kind of reminds me of some of the streets in Boston that I've seen. So Monica, if you watch this video, this is quite reminiscent of Boston, and you'll find a lot of houses in Kensington like this. Some of these now have become offices or they're private centres, and some of them are flats. So here we have University of Cambridge. So this is a Capitol building. So you've got businesses who meet here as well. Look at this one here with the lions on the front. So it's quite a remarkable place, but remember, if you're here, please don't put your bikes on the railings here, because if you do, they'll take them away. So there's no bikes allowed to be put on the railings. But the houses are quite sort of grand. I do like that light. Sort of almost like you feel like you are discovering a sense of occasion when you walk through these houses here. I'll keep walking. But again, this is literally come out of Marble Arch Station. Don't go straight to Speaker's Corner. Have a look at for little monumental things and just walk along the side streets. You can see so much more stuff. And of course, London's a juxtaposition of new and old. And we are walking in a place called Park Street, which is just off the park. Okay, and around here you will find embassies. So here's a knowledge check. What country does that flag belong to? I'll count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This building here is the Greek embassy. Now, if you look around London, you will see these blue plaques, and they are people who've had influence in the world. So this one is George Stephanius, 1900 to 1971, Greek ambassador, poet, and Nobel laureate, lived here from 1957 to 62. So to be a Nobel laureate, he must have been an incredibly good poet. So it's time now to go and research and see if I can find any of his poems. So let's continue this walk. Here's a tour bus. I'm going to do one of those. I think it's interesting to get one of those big buses and get up early in the morning and do it. So I'm in central London. It's about 9:15 in the morning on a Sunday. It's unbelievably busy for 9 o'clock at a Sunday morning, but this is what you get when you come to central London. We are 3/4 of a mile from St James's Park, and we are 1 mile from Soho. So I'll continue down here again. I quite look at the street here. It's such a different flavour in some areas of London to the others. And the houses around here, or the flats around here, oh, they go for millions, absolute millions. London's got one of the most expensive real estate prices in the world. I don't think it quite up there with New York, but it's expensive. Now, we are near Grosvenor Square. So Grosvenor Square was a home of the old US Embassy, but now the embassy has closed and it has moved to Vauxhall Station. So now the embassy is literally under construction. So I'm going to walk across the road here, hold on, so you can see. And this looks like this part here is where the old embassy used to be, right here. So it's now under construction, so clearly there's going to be a new construction put there, probably flats, I can imagine. The local residents here are really pleased that the embassy has gone, because there were quite a lot of restrictions, as you could probably imagine, because it was a US embassy, especially after 9/11. So this place is quite famous for its embassies, and I like this park. I mean, again, you're right in the centre of London, and just off of Oxford Street you find this very, very quiet park. I think it's Grosvenor Square, which is close to the embassy, and there is a statue here. I'm not quite sure who this statue is of, but let's go and have a walk and have a look to see. If you're a photographer, again, looking at this, I think this is a really good place to do a portrait photograph, because you have this long line here, and this looks like it's a war memorial right here. Look at this quaint thing as well. If I fancied having a sit around, I could have a sit around in one of these deck chairs. Look at this. So this is a statue in Grosvenor Square to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who I believe was a president of the United States. The park is kept incredibly clean, as you can see, cleaners going out at all times of the morning. And then look at this, I mean, let's walk to the other side. So like I said, amazing place this is for creating You know, when people go on about cinematic stuff, I get really bored of cinematic stuff, right? The only way you can create cinematic stuff is find places that you can go to for free and create it. And this is a place where you could go to for free, get up really early and create your cinematic experience right here. I think this is an American eagle. So it's quite poignant that outside of the former American embassy, there are remnants of the American flavour in London. So the squadron, this is a memorial to the Eagle Squadron. So let's have a look. This is a memorial to the memory of 244 American and 16 British fighter pilots and other personnel who served in the three Royal Air Force Eagle Squadrons prior to the participation of the United States in the Second World War. They served with valour. So obviously the Americans didn't come into the war in the Second World War until 1941 when Japan invaded Pearl Harbor. That is when America came into the war. So this monument here is a tribute to the Americans and British soldiers who died before then. And like I said, there is a flavour of Americanism due to the statues here, and I do love the fact that all these little deck chairs are sprinkled. Again, what another wonderful place here. And to put things also into context here as well, so you know that there's an American presence here, there's a rather lovely hotel over there called the Baltimore Hotel, which looks extremely lovely. And if you go to here, it's got a history of the square. In 1720, Sir Richard Grosvenor commissioned his estate surveyor to prepare a scheme or plan for the development of Grosvenor Square as the centrepiece of the Grosvenor Mayfair estate. The garden was originally designed as an oval enclosure surrounded by gates and railings, with access limited to local residents who paid for its upkeep. And Grosvenor Square has a long association with the United States of America. Before succeeding George Washington and John Adams lived at 9 Grosvenor Square, and he was the American ambassador to the court of St. James, and Walter Hines lived here from 1913 to 1938. And in 1938, the American embassy was established at 1 Grosvenor Square, and it left Grosvenor Square in about 2015-2016, and it is in its current place in Vauxhall. So should we go and have a look if we can find 9 Grosvenor Square, because I am sure it's got a plaque. So let's go and have a look at that. As we are now friends with England and with all mankind, Benjamin Franklin, American Peace Commissioner. And this is 9 Grosvenor Square. It's kind of quite an insignificant building. There's still CCTV on the building, so it still must have some quite some significance to it. So I guess this is where the peace treaty was done. I'm going to have a look at 9 Grosvenor Square and do some more research on it. Not in this vlog, but I'll be doing vlogs, and we can go from there. There's quite a few embassies as well down here. We have, as we walk down Grosvenor Square here, it looks like we've got a Ukrainian flag out here. So this might symbolise the Ukrainian embassy. The buildings here are absolutely tremendous. I wasn't anticipating coming down here today. It wasn't part of my notes, but hey, sometimes you have to explore, and if you come out of the beaten track, you do learn history quite quickly. So again, as you can see, it's getting quite busy again as we walk down here. I'm going to end this vlog now. I hope you've enjoyed it. I have. Like I said, this was just a walk from Marble Arch, and I ventured into places that I found interesting, and I found little history about America. I'm going to come back to Grosvenor Square again because I'm fascinated to know the history of number 9, and I'm sure there's some more hidden secrets that I didn't get to. So if you enjoy these vlogs, just let me know and I'll do some more for you. And like I said, more interesting ones are coming. So I'll see you in the next one. Take care and bye.